What if I told you, some spirits never left their graves, and tonight, they might be watching you? If you love ghost stories, hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video so we can bring you even more terrifying tales. Subscribe, like, share to keep the ghosts coming.
The Ghost, Trapped Inside Agnes the Doll, a British haunting, 1977 to 1983. In the summer of 1977, in the quiet Hampshire village of Horton, the Holloway family moved into a modest two-story home on Mill Lane. From the outside, the house was unremarkable. Red brick, a small garden, ivy creeping up the windows. Nothing about it suggested that within 6 years, it would become the site of one of the most unsettling hauntings ever recorded. By the Southern Counties Paranormal Research Society, Robert Holloway, a post office clerk, lived there with his wife, Margaret, a piano teacher, and their 2 children, Sarah, age 10, and Christopher, 6. They were an ordinary family, but what entered their home that April came not with malice, nor even intent, but as something far stranger, a quiet remnant of a forgotten sorrow. Margaret had found the doll at a Sunday antiques market in Winchester. It was small, porcelain, delicate, perhaps Edwardian. A single crack ran down its cheek like a faint scar, and the eyes were an uncanny blue. She bought it for £12. The stallholder offered a faded note folded beneath the case's lining. In an uneven hand it read, "Agnes belongs where the light never reaches." Margaret smiled at the time, thinking it a piece of theatrical nonsense. She took the doll home and placed it in Sarah's bedroom, upon a shelf above the writing desk. That was where the first whispers began. Sarah told her mother that she heard people talking under the bed. Her father brushed it off as a dream. But within a fortnight, both children refused to sleep upstairs. Margaret began noticing that the air in Sarah's room felt strangely cold, as if a draft moved through walls that were sealed. She wrote in her diary, "Her eyes look wet at night. It's only reflection, I tell myself, but sometimes I think she's breathing." At the end of July, the family awoke to the sound of tapping. The faint, rhythmic sound. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2. Robert searched the house. The only thing out of place was the doll's glass case, now misted from the inside, and marked with the outline of a small hand. On the 3rd of August, police were called to the Holloway home. Neighbors had reported screams. Officer Martindale's statement would later describe a hysterical Mrs. Holloway claiming the doll had spoken. Broken glass lay scattered across the carpet, and black soot streaked the wallpaper in the shape of fingers. No intruder was found, no prints. The doll, though fallen, was intact. From that night onward, the Holloway home grew heavier, not noisy or violent, but subdued, as though the air itself were listening. Margaret insisted she heard children crying at night. Once, she swore she heard a woman's voice whispering, "Don't send me away," when her husband began sleeping downstairs. She reached out to a small group she had read about in the local paper, the Southern Counties Paranormal Research Society, led by a former physics lecturer, Dr. Peter Killam. The group had made its name documenting unexplained disturbances in southern England. They arrived at the Holloway home in early September 1977 with recording equipment, temperature gauges, and notebooks. The investigation began quietly. The team noted subtle temperature drops, faint static interference, and an unusual sense of what they called emotional presence in Sarah's room. Nothing dramatic, until the night of the recording. A reel-to-reel tape was left running overnight beside the doll's case. When played back the following morning, the recording contained sounds no one had heard while it was being made. A faint voice, a child's whispering, "Please, not in the dark." Then another voice, older, feminine, answering softly, "Agnes mustn't go." Finally, a low male tone, "She's mine." Moments later, the tape erupted into static and a loud bang. The equipment was checked for faults. None were found. The voices did not match any member of the Holloway family. The recording was authenticated by 3 separate technicians. When Margaret heard the tape, she fainted. Later, she told Kellam that the older female voice sounded like her mother's, a woman who had died years earlier. As the investigation continued, research traced the doll's likely origin to a long-demolished orphanage, Bramley House, near Basingstoke, which had burned in 1904. 6 children and 1 caretaker perished in the fire. The caretaker's name was Agnes Roper. An old staff ledger retrieved from local archives contained a curious note beside her name. "She won't let them go." The suggestion that the doll once belonged to one of the orphanage's children, or to Agnes herself. took hold, yet the society refrained from making it public. Through the winter, events escalated. Margaret began to hear footsteps in the corridor at night, the sound of someone pausing outside the children's room. She would open the door, and nothing would be there, except the faint smell of smoke, like burnt wood. Members of the investigation team reported seeing a figure on the stairs, a thin woman wrapped in black, face hidden. On one occasion, a researcher found the doll placed on the banister halfway up, though no one admitted to moving it. One investigator, Annette Briggs, resigned days later, saying she dreamed nightly of a voice whispering through walls, "You took her from me." Margaret's diary became erratic, the handwriting growing slanted and wild. "She's trying to speak, not through my ears, through my hands." By early 1979, Dr. Kellum began to suspect that the haunting was not residual, not an imprint of the past, replaying, but active, responsive. He described it as an intelligence bound to an object, using emotional energy to communicate. In one recorded session, Margaret appeared to slip into trance. Her speech slowed. When asked her name, she replied, "I kept them safe. The children. It's so cold down there." When Kellum pressed her down where she answered, "In the dark, the room beneath the stairs." A later inspection revealed a sealed coal cellar below the stairs, boarded decades before. When the boards were removed, they found 3 small porcelain heads, broken, wrapped in decayed lace. No one could determine how they got there. By 1981, the haunting had taken its toll. Robert left the house. The children were sent to relatives. Margaret grew frail, often found staring at the doll for hours, murmuring to it as though it were a child. On the 14th of September, she was discovered seated before the glass case, unresponsive, whispering the name Agnes again and again. She survived, but her mind was elsewhere. The Research Society removed the doll, sealing it inside a lead-lined cabinet at their facility in Southampton. For the first time in years, the Holloway home fell silent. Then, in January 1982, fire consumed it. The blaze began in the living room at precisely 3:11 a.m. The same time stamped on the original tape recording. The fire brigade could not identify a source. Amid the wreckage, one wall remained intact. Blackened plaster bore the outline of a woman cradling a small figure, unburnt amidst the ash. Margaret was institutionalized shortly after. She never returned home. Within months, the Society's notes refer to new disturbances inside their storage vault. Staff reported hearing a woman sobbing, faint and constant, from the sealed cabinet. Others described a cold breeze whenever they passed the case. One technician claimed a voice whispered, "Please, not in the dark." The same line from the tape. By 1983, the cabinet was sealed entirely. The case labeled Anomalous Object 14, Agnes. Beneath it, Dr. Kellum placed the same handwritten note that had come with the doll. "Agnes belongs where the light never reaches." 2 decades passed, the Society disbanded. Its archives sold to a private collector. In 2002, during digital restoration of old recordings, audio technician Claire Henslow revisited the Agnes tape. She detected a frequency beneath the known voices, something only visible on the spectrogram, too low to hear unaided. When amplified, it revealed a faint child's voice repeating, "We're still here." No one could explain how the words appeared in the digital analysis when they had never been audible before. Days later, Claire sent her final email to a colleague. "Every time I play the tape, the lights flicker. I think she knows her name." She never returned to the project. Skeptics argue that every aspect of the Agnes haunting can be explained. The hallucinations by carbon monoxide leaks, the voices by sleep paralysis, the cold air by drafts, the fire by faulty wiring, but none have accounted for the recordings. The cellar remains, or the way witnesses years apart describe the same voice. In his private notes, discovered after his death, Dr. Kellum wrote, "Perhaps haunting is not about anger or unfinished business, but the cruel persistence of memory. To be remembered is to remain." What if Agnes was never haunting them? What if she was only waiting to be remembered? Margaret Holloway died in 1989. Nurses reported that she often cradled an invisible child on her lap, humming lullabies to the empty air. The doll remains sealed, its location undisclosed. The few who have seen it since describe one unsettling detail. The dust inside the glass never settles. It shifts slowly, as though something beneath it is breathing. When the SCPRS vault was audited in 2017, Object 14 Agnes was missing. The cabinet door stood open. Security footage showed only static. The time code froze at 3:11 a.m. One single frame remained intact, a dark corridor, the edge of the cabinet visible, the faint reflection of a woman's silhouette watching from the corner. In the final entry of the logbook, someone had written a single line, unsigned, "She's not in the dark anymore."